Minions, welcome! I am the Overlord, and this is something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about some magic stuff, and Hour of Devastation is coming out soon. And by soon, I think pre-release is next week, assuming that I get this video edited within a reasonable time frame. So what we're gonna do, because I wanted to look at all of the spoilers and kind of share my thoughts on some of them, but not all of them, don't worry about that. Otherwise, this would be like a 4-hour video, and we don't need that. You don't need that, I don't need that. My time's valuable. I gotta go play video games and stuff. So, I'm just gonna go through, see the cards that catch my attention, probably the rares and mythics, and talk about how much fun they would be for, you know, casual stuff or commander, since those are my ace formats. Let's just begin. The Adorned Pouncer comes to mind, as this one was kind of leaked on the Reddit a little bit before official spoilers started. It's a 1/1 for 2 with double strike, which is like, not really the best 2-drop, but Eternalize is where it comes in. You get a 4/4. Once this dies, you can exile it from your graveyard to create a token copy of anything that you can internalize, in this case the Adorned Pouncer, and it's a 4/4 black zombie. In addition to its other types, you go from having a pretty meh 1/1 double strike cat for 2 mana to a pretty sweet 4/4 double strike for 5 mana. That's a great deal. Great deal, love to see it. It's cat, so it fits into cat tribal, which is always something I appreciate. The Angel of Condemnation. Now this is a spicy angel. You can pretty much just blink creatures, or you can exert it to create basically an Oblivion Ring effect, exiling it until Angel of Condemnation leaves the battlefield. I'm sure there are ways you can kind of cheat it so that everything's perma-exiled, but it's ridiculous, it's bonkers, and it's a 3/3 flying vigilance for 4 mana, so you're gonna want that even if you don't really use any of its other abilities, especially in like limited stuff. That's some great stuff. Happy to see some birds here. Cheaper angels, that's alright. Cycling angel, not too bad. This bad boy, the Crested Sunmare. Other horses you control have indestructible horses. What say you now, horsemanship? And if you gain life, you get to create a 5/5 horse at the beginning of each end step. That's pretty bonkers, especially because I can think of plenty of super cheap like enchantment that's just like, at the beginning of your upkeep, gain 1 life. So you gain a life, and then you get a 5/5 indestructible horse at the end of the turn. If you play 2 of these bad boys, because they're not legendary, then both of your horse-making horses are indestructible, and then you get double the horses. That's some pretty sweet horse tribal. Love to see it. Get you excited about horses, which is not something you say about Magic all the time. Other corners of the internet, well, we don't talk about that. Deserter's Hold, kind of interesting. It's the, if you control a desert, you get a bonus effect. So it's basically just overcosted pacifism, but you can gain some life. Not too bad. Dijiru with eyes open. With eyes wide open. Into the sunlight. It's a legendary creature, a 4/3 for 5 with vigilance, though not the greatest stat line. But when he enters the battlefield, you can tutor for a planeswalker and put it into your hand, and then he also prevents damage to your planeswalkers, making it easier to build loyalty. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting effect. Worth putting in a Super Friends deck? I don't know, but I suppose we'll see. Hour of Revelation, EDH. This is your new Wrath of God Deluxe Bonus Edition, because it destroys pretty much everything except lands. And you can do it all for just 3 white mana because it costs 3 less if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. And a game of EDH, a couple of turns in, you bet there are going to be 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. It's just ridiculous. This is a card you're going to want to hang on to. If you don't play EDH, someone else does, and they'll want it. Some of the last stand cards are pretty great. I don't have a lot to say about Teka's Overwhelming Splendor. It's a curse. Creatures enchanted player controls lose all abilities and have base power and toughness of 1/1. Enchanted player can't activate abilities that aren't mana abilities or loyalty abilities. So that just basically says you're out of the game. All of your dudes are 1/1. Unless that's your thing. You're running a bunch of 1/1s, like you're doing elves or something, and then you have an anthem effect. So overall, it's pretty pricey for 8 mana. Obviously, you're not going to see this in constructed unless there's a good way to cheat it out. But something worth considering because it really does disable one player there. The Hour of Eternity. Exile X target creature cards from your graveyard. For each exiled card in this way, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So this is to get your entire graveyard back for the low cost of actually a pretty steep cost. Double X means you have to pay at least 5 mana to get to eternalize one thing, essentially. And then 2 additional mana for each additional thing you want to eternalize. But it can bring back that one threat that you never saw coming. It's definitely great in like an EDH deck that you need some good creatures and they might get killed early. So if you have some combo pieces, all of that like resurrecting or saving stuff from your graveyard like doesn't work in Commander. So now blue has a tool for that. It's kind of pricey, but yeah, it's alright. Jace's defeat! There! Are you happy? Are you happy, Reddit? They did it! They did it, Reddit. They did it. You did it. Nicobolus did it. Yeah, Kevnet's last word. Not really worth talking about. Gain control of something, don't untap your lands at the beginning of your next untap step. For 4 mana, it's control magic. Maybe it's neat because it's in standard, but, I mean, in EDH, just use control magic. Swarm Intelligence. If you like shenanigans, boy, is this the card for you. It's a little pricey, so it's really just like a slower sort of EDH card, but it's an enchantment, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. That's just a fun card. You just copy your spells. Counter one spell? No, double counter the spell. Counter all the spells. I don't know, you're copying spells left and right. Take an extra turn, maybe you have Time Walk because you're a millionaire or something like that. And well, now you have 2 Time Walks because you copy your Time Walk, so you take an extra turn and during that turn you'll end it and then you'll take another extra turn and that's 3 turns. It's a lot of turns. The Sphinx Tribal Mythic, that's alright, doesn't get me as excited as horses do though. Bantu's Last Reckoning. Now here's a reckoning that I can get behind. Now this was leaked pretty early by the official Wizards website. They showed off this card, I guess that version of the website went up a little too quickly, so this is no surprise. But this is a Wrath. They said they were never going to print a 4-mana Wrath in Standard, and gosh heckin' darn it, they were right. They printed a 3-mana Wrath instead. Destroy all creatures, lands you control, don't untap during your next untap step. That's super sweet because the power, the timing is in your hand. You get to decide when it's most advantageous to destroy everything and swing the advantage back in your favor for only 3 mana, and if you play it right, you know, you might only lose 3 lands to untap. So it's not something you play on curve, obviously. You wait until maybe you have a bunch of Planeswalkers out there. How about an Abzan Planeswalker, like Super Friends deck? Have some fun there. blow up the world, reset everything into your favor, and then, yeah, you lose a little bit of momentum, but if you play it right, that shouldn't be a problem. So as they like to say in the Dark Souls world, get good. Well, they also say that in the Monster Hunter world. This is blasphemy, and I blame you, Reddit. It's all your fault. Liliana shouldn't be able to be defeated. Those with ambition cannot be crushed! It's a zombie wall. Check that out. The moaning wall. Zombies. You should run that. I don't know, because it's cool. And you can cycle it, so no big deal. Rakazeth, nothing too crazy. Nothing that I'm super excited about. Just an expensive tutor. Here we go. Torment of Hailfire! Because we probably couldn't say Hellfire because that's a bad word. So it's X and 2 black mana. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. So if you're running this in, say, a mono-black EDH deck, and you have Crypt Gassed out, or you have Cabal Coffers and a bunch of Swamps, maybe you even have Gauntlet of Powers or Cage Stun out there too, and then you just, the power. It's so much power because it hits all of your opponents. If you dump 8 into X, that's 8 times each player has to make that choice. You're gonna come out on top. You're gonna feel pretty heckin' powerful. Abrade. This one's pretty sweet. It's a lightning strike, except it's not just a lightning strike, you can also use it to blow up an artifact. That's why they haven't been reprinting lightning strike, because they've been saving it for Abrade. I like that. I'm gonna hang on to this. Might even see play in standard. Hour of Devastation. This might see some use with all the indestructible being thrown around in EDH, which is usually Red's weakness, because all Red really does is deal damage. But this removes indestructible until end of turn and deals 5 damage to each creature and non-bolus planeswalker, which usually isn't a problem. So it'll also hit those pesky planeswalkers that you would do anything to get rid of. All you need to do is devastate things for an hour. Just an hour of your time. Easy. Imminent Doom is... it's neat. I appreciate it, but there's not really a lot to say about it. Guess I'll use Neb here. Neb the Eternal. The keyword or creature type soup, legendary creature, zombie, minotaur, warrior, wizard, dragon, angel, lipid. This could be pretty fun. For 5 mana, he's a 4/6, so he has gray stat lines. His ability at the beginning of each of your post-combat main phase, add a red mana to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponents have lost this turn. So if you go to combat, maybe if Neheb, I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe this dude gets through and hits your opponent in the face for 4, that's 4 red mana that you get for free. Combine that with something like Blaze and whew, you're good. Lots of spice here. And I also wanted to talk about the other thing that I so obviously skipped over, the Afflict keyword. This is pretty exciting. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So this is a very strong sort of aggro strategy. Obviously they're going to try to block it if they can, but that might involve them throwing away or chumping creatures, reducing their board state, and they'll still take some damage, but it's slightly less damage than they would take if the creature gets through. I'm really excited about Afflict. I think it's super strong. I am excited to play with the keyword and see how well it does. Of course, the Wildfire Elemental. Afflict 4, so it's a 1/4, and when it attacks and isn't blocked, you may cast instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost. Holy moly. So you either take 4 damage, well, not take 4 damage, lose 4 life, technically speaking, or you get to cast something for free, which is great. It messes with your opponent. If you have a lot of cards in your hand, it's great for playing mind games. And again, in a slower format, you could just have some crazy nasty, like, 8 mana spell. Feral Prowler. It's a cat. I like cats. Also, it has a cool effect that you usually don't see in green, or at least not lately. When it dies, you draw a card. So it's a 1/3 for 2, so it's not too bad, but you expect it to die, which it will, and in that turn, you get a card. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty solid. This is awesome. And it's also not legendary. Ah, we need a legendary green-white cat. This would have been great. The Pride Sovereign gets 1/1 for each other cat you control. And it's already a 2/2 for 3, so as long as you have one other cat, you're playing value. And you can pay 1 white, tap it, and exert it to create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. So basically you get 2 1/1 creatures with lifelink, which gives, in turn, the Pride Sovereign +2/+2 for exerting it. And there are plenty of ways you can kind of cheat and untap it, even if it's exerted. So that's pretty sweet. The Ranumap Excavator. Yeah, that's the technical pronunciation. You may play land cards from your graveyard. Holy moly, it's the Crucible of Worlds, except it's a snake. Crucible of Snakes. Except it's not a snake, it's a Naga, which is different from a snake in Magic World. Because they want to make things simple for new players? Simplicity. Also, Ronus' Last Stand. I think this is pretty strong. You get a 5/4 green snake creature token. Sure, it dies to Fatal Push, but if your opponent doesn't have a Fatal Push and you're on turn 2 and you play this and you have a 5/4 and your next turn you still have 1 mana because you'll play a land to do other shenanigans with. I think it's pretty strong. Late game, you need some tempo, you play a creature, and then you also play this. Boom! 5/4 for 2. Take that, Tarmogoyf. It's not going to replace Tarmogoyf, but let us believe. The Locust God. He's alright. For 6 mana, he's a 4/4 flying. Whenever you draw a card, create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. And then draw a card, and then discard a card. And when it dies, return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. That actually gives it a ton of power in Limited, and also a ton of power in EDH. As if he dies, you just bounce it back to your hand, and you don't have to worry about paying that pesky commander tax. And I have a feeling, like, it doesn't seem super strong, but I have a feeling with some draw spells, there are a lot of ways to create the 1/1 blue and red insects. Like, just masses and masses of locusts. Which is probably the point of the Locust God. So, good for you, Locust God. Nicobolus God Pharaoh. For 7 mana, you want to be in Grixis colors there. A 7 loyalty planeswalker with a very nasty ultimate for 12 loyalty counters, just 12. Exile each non-land permanent your opponents control. We're going from bottom to top here. For -4, it deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature and opponent controls, so you can't blow up your own stuff. Why would he do that? He's Nico Bolas. He needs your stuff. He has plans for it. Not your opponents. They can blow up. For +1, each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand, which is... whoa. Whoa. That is bonkers. Each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. Holy moly. I like that. And then for the +2, target opponent exiles a card from the top of his or her library till she exiles a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without playing its mana cost. That's always super fun. I love crazy chaos effects like that. So Nico Bolas, will it see play? Maybe. But if I was saying like a Marchesa of the Dark Rose or whatever the very first Marchesa card from the first Conspiracy was, if I was playing a deck like that, I'd definitely put this in there just because it's Grixis colors. Probably put them into my Nekuzar just because why not? This is Nico Bolas, man. Come on. And then we have Smut the Tested. We'll probably see more constructed play just because she's easier to cast. For 2 in red and green. +1. Up to 1 target creature gains double strike till end of turn. Not super crazy, but you never know when that extra power in combat can kind of help you out there. -2. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose amongst 1 or 2 target creatures and or players. So that's a 4th lightning right there. Again, maybe not super powerful, but the versatility is nice. I think a lot of builds will appreciate that. And then the -7 though is search your library for up to 2 creature and or planeswalker cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So if you're going a full 4 or 5 color Super Friends deck, get Smut out here, get her to ultimate, and then bring out your Nico Bolas and start having some fun. It's what I like to see. The Scarab God. So obviously we're going to talk about all the gods because something about the story of like blowing stuff up. Yeah. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. I'm in love already. For 2, a blue and a black, exile target creature from a graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. And of course, the writer of when it dies, return it to your hand. The beginning of the next end step. So this is the type of god I was looking for. Although blue zombies are generally kind of a sin against mankind, I'll allow it for the Scarab God. Because holy moly, even if he's the only blue creature in a deck like that, if you're running full zombie tribal, like that will add up quickly. You don't even need to do anything, you just need to play them when you have a bunch of zombies out. You get a scry and your opponent loses life. That's insane. I love it. I want one. The Scorpion God. For 3, a black and a red. Whenever a creature dies with -1/-1 counter on it, draw a card. You can pay 1, a black and a red, to put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature, and of course when it dies, return it to your hand. So this, I'm not as in love with it, just because, I mean, it's a beater. It's a 6/5 for 5 mana, so that's pretty strong. You can put -1/-1 counters on things as long as you have the mana for it. So I'm sure that's an ability that I'm kind of underestimating, but it's just not splashy. It's not the kind of casual wow that I was expecting. And then of course more of these split cards. I have a feeling we won't be seeing very many of these after this block, but that's just me. I'm just not a fan. The God Pharaoh's Gift. Beginning combat on your turn, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's 4/4 black zombie. It gains haste until end of turn. This is one of those unlimited potential cards. One of my go-tos is always imagine like, oh yeah, you have Grave Titan in the graveyard, and then you just bring him onto the battlefield. He enters the battlefield, you get some 2/2 zombies, and then he attacks and you get more 2/2 zombies. So any of the mythic titans, like Sun Titan, Grave Titan, not Prime Titan, because he's Primeval Titan, because he's like banned everywhere, because it's just no fun. He's not fair. You just get all of your lands. Like what? I mean, that's pretty great, but not when it doesn't happen to you. So this is something, it is a 7 mana artifact, but there's that card in Amonkhet that lets you cheat it out a little bit earlier, so we'll see. I wonder, I don't know if it'll make competitive play, like splashes in there, but it'll be fun nonetheless to try to play. Hollow One. This is just a 4/4 artifact creature for 5, but it costs 2 less for each card you've cycled or discarded this turn. So I have a feeling people are going to find some ways to work in and cheat out like just a 4/4 for like 1 or 0 mana. So that'll be interesting. I have a feeling this might see some competitive play. And of course, obviously, the long-awaited Manolith reprint. Thank you, Wizards. It's about time. We've been dying for more Manoliths. But on a less sarcastic note, like, that art is super cool. I love all the color and like the blue river right there with the purples and the reds swirling around, and you even have some green. Like you have the bones, like, oh, it's a swamp, and then it's a river, and then there's the foresty stuff to get the green mana. That's good stuff. That is good job. Mirage Mirror. It's an artifact you put down for 3, and then for 2, it becomes a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land until end of turn. Hello, cheating. Just more ways for colorless EDH decks to cheat infinite colorless mana. Just ridiculous. And then the Sunset Pyramid. I like this because there was a bunch of those cards in Amonkhet that was like, hey, go ahead and put brick counters on something, and once you have 3, it's a pyramid, and then it does something better. And then this one's like, nah, we're taking apart the pyramids now. Remove the brick counters. All of that hard work, you just gotta undo it. But you get to draw cards over time, which is pretty sweet. And then you can always use it to scry afterwards. So not too bad. I like how they have these cycling lands that are also deserts. Pretty sweet. Always love to see the basics. Gotta say, that is some sweet sunlight. Like, I don't even know how one would do that. That just looks like it's illuminating. Even though it doesn't make sense unless they used, like, paint that literally produces light or something. Like, that's just such a cool effect and so well done. It's like, whoa, it's so bright. And I love the fact that you can just exile a bunch of creatures over time that you control when they're about to die, and then bring them all back. So it's like, oh hey, we blew away all the sand and there was a bunch of creatures underneath there. Have fun with that. Good stuff. Hostile Desert might see some competitive play, especially in like mono or dual color decks, you know, where you can afford to have some colorless mana producing lands. Because you can pay 2 and exile a land from your graveyard, and it becomes a 3/4 creature until end of turn. And it's a desert. I like these deserts too. They come into play untapped, but to get color from it, you need to pay a life. Scavenger Grounds, here you go. Hello and goodbye, Bajuka Bog. Maybe you run both. This is an option for everyone who's not running black in their favorite EDH deck. It adds a colorless mana to your mana pool, or you can pay 2, tap it, and sacrifice a desert. So it doesn't have to be Scavenger Grounds, but it'll probably be Scavenger Ground to exile all cards from all graveyards. Stop that Grave Recursion deck dead in its tracks. Only $39.99 for 7 easy installments. And I do like the Spell Deserts and these full art lands. Those are pretty sweet. I think my favorite's like the Blood Swamp. Like, it's all kind of dried up, but there's like the River of Blood, and then the Bolus Horns aren't as apparent, which is kind of nice because they don't like steal the focus of everything else. And I can appreciate that. Whereas something like this is like, oh, it's a green city. And there's that. But the sun's like right in the middle of the horns. Probably the best representation of that, so that's pretty sweet. Even the forest, even the city forest, has something cool about the artwork. It's what I can appreciate. We're just gonna go through, look at the basic land art. Alright, that's some pretty good stuff, so there we go. Those are my thoughts on some of the cards on Hour of Devastation. Is it devastatingly awesome? Perhaps. So this was fun. If you want to see more of this, if you think this is valuable, then go ahead and let me know in the comments or in the Reddit that's going to inevitably get downloaded, because that's just what Reddit does. Gosh, heck it. All joking aside though, hit that like button and subscribe button and follow me on the Twitters and the Facebooks and follow my Twitch, because I don't know, sometimes I stream. It's been a while, but maybe I'll feel like it again. So, you know, you might as well follow, because why not? And that's about all I have for this episode, so go now, my minions! Be free!